What happens when a group of racist men target the wrong black woman, burning her home, threatening her life, only to discover she's the most feared Navy SEAL alive? They wanted to send a message. Instead, they started a war. Now she's hunting them down one by one and there's nowhere left to hide. Stay tuned because this is more than revenge. This is justice. Be sure to like this video and tell us where you are watching from in the comments, and also do not forget to subscribe to this channel to not miss our daily uploads. Naomi Washington's combat boots crunched against broken glass as she approached the police line. The acrid smell of smoke burned her nostrils, a scent that transported her back to missions in distant lands. But this wasn't a foreign battlefield. This was her home in Sterling Heights, Michigan, and it was burning to the ground. "Ma'am, you need to stay back," a young officer called out, his hand raised. Naomi pulled out her ID. "This is my house." Her voice remained steady, masking the rage building inside her. The flickering orange flames reflected in her dark eyes as she watched 17 years of memories turn to ash. The officer's demeanor shifted slightly. "Ms. Washington, I'm Officer Chen. We responded to neighbors' calls about 20 minutes ago. Fire department is doing what they can, but..." He didn't need to finish. Naomi could see the truth. The fire had been burning too long, too hot. Nothing would be salvageable. Her father's military medals, her SEAL team photos, the flag from her mother's funeral, all of it was gone. Then she saw it. The spray paint on her driveway gleamed wet in the firelight, a crude symbol she'd seen before in intelligence briefings about domestic hate groups. Next to it, 4 words: "Leave or die nigger." Officer Chen followed her gaze. "We'll make note of the vandalism in the report. Probably just kids." "Kids." Naomi's voice cut like steel. "Tell me, Officer Chen, do just kids usually know to use accelerant in a pattern that blocks all exit points? Do they typically wait until the homeowner is at a regularly scheduled evening event that they've surveilled? Do they..." She stopped herself, years of training kicking in. "Don't show your hand. Don't let them know how much you know." "We'll investigate all possibilities, Mum," Chen replied, but his tone suggested otherwise. Naomi's phone buzzed. A text from her sister Maya. "OMG, just heard. Are you okay? Should I come?" "Stay at the hospital. I'm fine. Call you later," Naomi typed back quickly. Maya had just started her medical residency. She didn't need this distraction. As fire crews battled the blaze, Naomi methodically photographed everything. The spray paint, the burn patterns, the boot prints in her flower beds. Her training kicked in automatically. Gather intelligence, establish baseline, identify patterns. The gang had done their homework. They knew her schedule, knew she attended the veteran support group every Thursday. But they'd made one critical mistake. They thought they were sending her a message. Instead, they'd given her a mission. A female firefighter approached, removing her helmet. "Ms. Washington, we found something you should see." In her gloved hand was a partially burned photograph. Naomi recognized it immediately. Her SEAL team graduation photo. Someone had drawn red X's over each face. "There's more," the firefighter said quietly. "These were placed throughout the house before the fire." Naomi's jaw tightened. This wasn't random. This wasn't opportunistic. This was a coordinated attack by someone who knew exactly who she was and what she was capable of. As the flames finally began to die down, Naomi made 2 calls, the first to her old commanding officer, the second to a storage facility in Detroit where she kept equipment that hadn't seen use since her last deployment, equipment she'd hoped never to need again. They wanted to terrorize her. Instead, they'd awakened something they wouldn't see coming until it was too late. The war had come home, and this time, she wasn't fighting for her country. She was fighting for survival. The Sunrise Motel had seen better days, but it offered 2 things Naomi needed: anonymity and a clear view of all approaches. She sat at the small desk, her laptop illuminating the sparse room as news reports from the past year filled the screen. Black-owned business vandalized. Hate crime investigation stalled. Community leaders demand answers. Each headline felt like a piece of a larger puzzle. Sterling Heights had always had its issues, but this was different. The attacks were escalating, becoming more organized, more violent. Her house wasn't the first, but if she had anything to say about it, it would be the last. A knock at the door sent her hand instinctively to the Glock 19 at her waist. Through the peephole, she recognized Detective Sarah Martinez from the local PD. "Your colleagues work fast," Naomi said, opening the door but maintaining her position behind it. Martinez stepped in, her eyes taking in the room's tactical layout. When a decorated Navy SEAL's house burns down with hate symbols painted outside, it raises flags. Higher-ups wanted this kicked up the chain. Higher-ups didn't seem concerned about the other attacks. "That's partly why I'm here." Martinez pulled out a thick file. 6 incidents in the past year, all targeting successful black residents, all mysteriously stalled in investigation. Naomi spread the photos across the bed. A restaurant burned, a lawyer's car bombed, a doctor's home vandalized, each attack more sophisticated than the last. "Someone's teaching them," Naomi muttered, recognizing military-grade tactics in the attack patterns. "My thoughts exactly." Martinez lowered her voice. "Look, officially I'm here to take your statement. Unofficially, something's wrong in my department. Cases disappearing, evidence going missing. I need someone working outside the system." Naomi's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You were warned." Attached was a photo of her sister Maya leaving the hospital, clearly taken within the last hour. "They watching my family," Naomi said, showing Martinez the message. "I can assign protection." "No, I don't know who to trust in your department." Naomi pulled up an encrypted messaging app she hadn't used since her SEAL days. "I have my own resources." Within minutes, she had responses from her old team. They remembered the oath they'd taken to defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. "These people," Martinez said, studying the case files, "they're not just racist thugs. They're trained, connected, possibly ex-military themselves." "Good," Naomi replied, checking the magazine in her Glock. "Then they should know what's coming." She pulled up surveillance footage from a traffic camera near her house, captured just before the fire. A black SUV with tinted windows, a partial plate number. It wasn't much, but it was a start. "Detective," Naomi said, "I need everything you have on similar attacks in neighboring counties. These people didn't just appear overnight. They practiced somewhere else first." As Martinez left with promises to return with more files, Naomi opened a secure line to her former commanding officer, Captain Richards. "I need to call in that favor," she said when he answered, "and I need access to the equipment we used in Kandahar." His response was immediate. "The package will be at the usual dead drop in 2 hours. But Naomi, whatever you're planning, remember your training. Precision, control, no collateral damage." "Don't worry, Captain," she replied, watching another photo of Maya arrive on her phone. "This time it's personal, and personal means precise." The night grew deeper as Naomi began plotting coordinates on a digital map. Each attack site, each victim's home, each reported sighting. A pattern was emerging, and patterns, she knew from experience, were how you hunted predators. They thought burning her house would make her run. Instead, they'd given her a hunting ground. The Sons of Pure Liberty wasn't spray-painted on any walls or advertised on social media, but after 3 days of surveillance, Naomi had heard the name whispered enough times to know she'd found what she was looking for. She sat in her parked rental car outside McKinley's Bar and Grill, watching the steady stream of people entering the establishment's back door. "Target is arriving," crackled a voice through her earpiece. Her old SEAL teammate Rodriguez was positioned on the roof across the street. Black Ford F-150, 3 occupants armed. Naomi adjusted her hidden camera as 3 men emerged from the truck. The leader, a tall man with a distinctive scorpion tattoo on his neck, scanned the area before entering. She'd seen him in photos from previous attacks, always in the background, never directly involved. "Got you," she whispered, snapping photos. The facial recognition software she'd borrowed from her military contacts would be running all night. Her phone buzzed with a text from Detective Martinez. Medical examiner's reports from previous victims attached. Pattern you need to see. Opening the files, Naomi's jaw tightened. Each victim had been subjected to sophisticated torture techniques before the final acts of violence. These weren't just hate crimes, they were military-style interrogations gone lethal. Movement at the west entrance, Rodriguez warned. Large group exiting. Naomi watched as 15 men filed out, including faces she recognized from police reports. But it was the last person who caught her attention, a woman in a police uniform, Officer Lisa Bennett from the Sterling Heights PD. Running facial recognition on all subjects, Naomi muttered into her comm, cross-record with military and law enforcement databases. She started the car, maintaining her distance as she followed the group to their next location. They converged on a warehouse in the industrial district, its faded sign reading Liberty Storage Solutions. Real subtle with the name, Rodriguez commented. Naomi positioned herself behind a stack of shipping containers, deploying a small drone for aerial surveillance. The thermal imaging showed 20-plus heat signatures inside, gathered in what appeared to be a training formation. They're not just a gang, she realized. This is a militia. Through the drone's audio feed, she caught fragments of their conversation. Plans for something bigger, dates, locations, a mention of purification through fire. Her earpiece crackled again. Naomi, you need to see this, Rodriguez said. Facial recognition just hit on your burned photos. The guy running the show, former Delta Force, Commander James Wright, discharged in 2019 for extremist ties. A cold realization washed over her. Wright had been legendary in special operations circles, not just for his skills, but for his training programs. He wasn't just leading these people, he was creating an army. Her phone buzzed again, another photo of Maya, this time entering her apartment. But something was different. In the background, barely visible, was a man with a scorpion tattoo. They're not just watching anymore, Naomi said, her voice hardening. They're closing in. She pulled up the building plans for Liberty Storage Solutions, noting entry points, blind spots, and potential choke points. Years of tactical planning kicked in automatically. Rodriguez, I need everything we have on Wright. Operating patterns, known associates, weaknesses. Already on it. But, Naomi, there's something else. Remember that church bombing in Atlanta 3 years ago? The one they never solved? Just found Wright's signature all over the planning documents. Naomi watched as more vehicles arrived at the warehouse, police cars, private security vehicles, even a county maintenance truck. Their network was bigger than she'd imagined. They're not just in the shadows anymore, she said, marking each vehicle's plate number. They're hiding in plain sight. As if to confirm her fears, a final vehicle pulled up, an FBI sedan. The driver stepped out, straightened his tie, and walked inside. The enemy wasn't just a group of racists. It was the system itself, and Naomi was running out of time to stop whatever they had planned. The abandoned paper mill loomed against the night sky, its broken windows like dark eyes watching Naomi's approach. She'd tracked 3 of Wright's men here after they left the warehouse, hoping to gather more intelligence. But something felt wrong. The air was too still, the darkness too complete. Rodriguez, I'm getting interference on my comms, she whispered, checking her weapon. They might be using signal jammers. Static was her only reply. A metal clang echoed from somewhere above. Amateur move. These weren't Wright's trained men. This was a trap meant for her. She'd walked right into it, but that didn't mean she had to play by their rules. Naomi activated her night vision goggles, counting heat signatures. 6 hostiles, spread out in an amateur pincer formation. They'd expected her to come through the main entrance, not realizing she'd already scouted the building's blueprints. Let's see how well you trained them, right? She muttered, slipping through a service entrance they'd overlooked. The first attacker never saw her coming. Naomi emerged from the shadows, one hand clamping over his mouth while the other applied precise pressure to his carotid artery. He slumped silently, zip-tied and unconscious before he hit the ground. Alpha Point, check in, a voice crackled from the man's radio. Silence. Alpha, respond. More silence. All units converge on Alpha's last known. The radio squawked and died as Naomi crushed it under her boot. They were getting nervous. Good. A beam of light swept past her position. 2 more hostiles, moving together but leaving their flanks exposed. Their footsteps echoed on the metal catwalk. Heavy, uncertain, not military trained. Local muscle trying to prove themselves. Naomi reached into her tactical vest, removing a small canister. The flashbang rolled perfectly between their feet. The explosion of light and sound sent them staggering. By the time their vision cleared, they were face down and restrained, their weapons added to Naomi's growing collection of evidence. "Someone's hunting our hunters!" The panic in the voice above her brought a grim smile to her face. Then she saw it, a reflection in one of the broken windows, a sniper on the roof of the building opposite. That was Wright's training showing. Use local muscle as bait, keep your skilled operators at a distance. The crack of the rifle came just as Naomi dove behind a concrete pillar. The round sparked off steel where she'd been standing a moment before. "Got you," she whispered, noting the muzzle flash position. Her own rifle came up smooth, muscle memory from countless hours of training taking over. One shot, one breath. The sniper's scope exploded, and a cry of pain told her she'd scored a hit, non-lethal but effective. The remaining two hostiles were running now, all pretense of tactical movement abandoned. Their radios crackled with desperate calls for backup. Naomi let them run. They'd spread the word about what happened here. Let them tell Wright his ambush had failed. Let them describe how one woman had dismantled their trap piece by piece. She approached the wounded sniper, zip-tying his hands as he groaned. "Wright sent you to test me? Go to hell, bye." His words cut off as she applied pressure to his wounded shoulder. "Wrong answer. Let's try again. Why here? Why tonight?" His laugh was wet with pain. "You think you've won something? This was just a test to see how you operate. Every move you made, every technique you used, he'll study it all. And next time it won't be local thugs and one decent shooter," Naomi finished. She spotted a familiar tattoo on his wrist, Delta Force, same unit as Wright. "Tell your commander something for me. Tell him I'm not running. Tell him I'm not hiding. And tell him I'm coming for everything." She zip-tied him to a support beam and called Detective Martinez. "Got some presents for you. 5 arrests, 1 with a military background, and enough weapons to justify a federal investigation." As police sirens approached, Naomi melted into the shadows. In her ear, her comm crackled back to life. "Damn girl," Rodriguez's voice came through. "Remind me never to piss you off." But Naomi wasn't celebrating. Wright had wanted to study her tactics, her responses, which meant whatever he was planning, whatever purification through fire meant, it was bigger than her burned home. Much bigger. And time was running out. Janet Brown adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses and smiled blandly at the hiring manager of Liberty Storage Solutions. Her natural hair was straightened and pulled back into a severe bun, her makeup subtle but aging. The fake resume in front of her listed years of unremarkable clerical experience. "We do need someone for the night shift," Brad Thompson said, barely glancing at her paperwork. His eyes slid over her as if she were furniture. Perfect. Naomi had spent a week crafting this persona. Janet Brown was invisible, forgettable, exactly what she needed to be. "Where can you start?" Thompson asked. "Tonight?" 4 hours later, Naomi sat at the front desk, watching the security feeds while appearing to do mundane data entry. Her specially modified glasses were scanning and transmitting everything to Rodriguez's surveillance van. "Got movement. In loading bay 3, his voice crackled in her nearly invisible earpiece. "Our friend with the scorpion tattoo just arrived." Naomi kept typing, her peripheral vision catching the man, now identified as Michael Reeves, ex-Marine, as he strode past her desk. He carried a laptop case that set off her hidden radiation detector. Flash drive, probably encrypted. "Evening, Ms. Brown," he muttered without looking at her. They never did. As soon as he disappeared into the back offices, Naomi activated the keylog she'd installed during her computer competency test. Within seconds, she had his password. "Running facial recognition on everyone entering," Rodriguez reported. "Got 3 more ex-military, 2 police officers and..." Wait, is that Senator Harrison's aide? Naomi's fingers kept up their steady rhythm on the keyboard as she watched Jonathan Myers, senior aide to the state senator, hurry through the lobby. The pieces were starting to fit together. Political connection, military training, police cooperation. A notification popped up on her screen. The keylogger had caught something. An email chain, partially encrypted. Phase 1 complete. Target list approved. Awaiting final authorization for Phase 2. Fire cleanses all. Attached was a file labeled Pure Liberty Initiative. Running decryption now, Rodriguez said. But Naomi, we've got company. Wright just pulled into the parking lot. Her heart rate elevated slightly, but her expression remained neutral as Commander James Wright entered the building. He moved like a predator, efficient and controlled. His eyes swept the lobby, including her, in one practiced motion. "Evening," he said, and something in his tone made her skin crawl. Did he know? Had she been made? "Good evening, sir," she replied in Janet Brown's meek voice, keeping her eyes downcast. He lingered a moment too long before moving on. "Naomi, you need to see this." Rodriguez's voice was tight. "Decryption's complete. It's not just a target list, it's an operations plan. Multiple simultaneous attacks across 3 states. Government buildings, community centers, churches." A printer whirred to life behind her desk, making her jump. Wright stood there, waiting for his document. She reached for it automatically. His hand caught her wrist. His grip was just slightly too tight as he took the paper himself. "Careful, Miss Brown. Some things aren't meant for all eyes." She mumbled an apology, but her mind was racing. On the paper, she'd glimpsed a familiar address. Myers Hospital. Wright walked away, phone to his ear. "Everything's in place. Begin distribution." "Rodriguez," Naomi sub-vocalized. "Tell Martinez we need that warrant now, and get Maya protection detail. Real protection, not local PD." "Already done, but Naomi, there's something else. That radiation signature from Reeves' laptop. It's not just encryption tech. According to this, they've got their hands on military-grade explosives, enough to level a city block." The night shift stretched ahead of her, each minute an eternity of maintained cover. Janet Brown kept typing, processing invoices, answering phones. But behind her bland expression, Naomi was memorizing faces, noting patterns, mapping the facility's security. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Nice disguise. Her blood froze. Attached was a photo of her sister again, but this time Maya wasn't alone. Standing behind her in the hospital parking lot was Wright himself, taken just hours ago. The game had changed. Her cover wasn't just blown, it had never existed at all. She was exactly where Wright wanted her to be. And the clock was ticking. Chapter 6. Faces in the Dark. Naomi crouched in the darkness of the records room, her heart steady despite the risk. After Wright's message, she'd made a show of leaving work early. Janet Brown was feeling unwell, but she hadn't gone far. "Security patrol passing your position," Rodriguez warned through her earpiece. "Hold position." Footsteps approached, then faded. In the dim light of her tablet, Naomi continued copying files from the office's secured server. The Pure Liberty Initiative wasn't just an attack plan. It was a manifesto, a blueprint for chaos.
A soft sound made her freeze. Not from the hallway, from behind the storage shelves. "I know someone's there," a female voice whispered. "I saw the light." Naomi's hand moved to her weapon. "Wait," the voice continued. "Please, I need help." A figure stepped into view, hands raised. Young woman, early 20s, blonde hair. Naomi recognized her from the surveillance photos. Sarah Reeves, Michael's sister.
"They'll kill me if they find me here," Sarah said, trembling, "but I had to know the truth about what Michael's involved in." Naomi kept her weapon ready. "Why should I trust you?" "Because I've seen your sister's photo on my brother's laptop. Because I heard them planning something at the hospital. Because," Sarah's voice broke, "because they killed my girlfriend when they found out about us. Made it look like a drug overdose." The pieces clicked. "Rachel Martinez," Naomi said. "Detective Martinez's daughter." Sarah nodded, tears streaming. "They use it to control her mom. Keep her in line. But I can't. I can't let them hurt more people."
A door slammed somewhere in the building. Sarah jumped.
"Multiple targets approaching," Rodriguez warned. "You've got company." "They're coming to get the final shipment," Sarah whispered. "The explosives. Michael bragged about it when he was drunk. They're storing everything here before what? Before they start the war. Sarah pulled out her phone, showing Naomi photos she'd secretly taken. Weapons, documents, evidence. Wright calls it the cleansing. Multiple attacks coordinated across the region, but the hospital, that's personal. For you. Footsteps grew closer, multiple sets. Rodriguez, I need an exit, Naomi sub-vocalized. The south stairwell's clear, but Naomi, thermal imaging shows 8 armed individuals heading your way. Sarah grabbed Naomi's arm. There's something else. The FBI agent who's helping them, he's got files on you, your whole SEAL team, your family. They've been watching you for months, long before the house. The footsteps stopped outside the records room. Please, Sarah begged, help me expose them. Help me get justice for Rachel. The door handle turned. In one fluid motion, Naomi pulled Sarah behind a shelf, activated a smoke grenade, and fired her grappling line through the ventilation shaft. Hold on to me, she ordered. They were through the shaft and into the stairwell as shouts of alarm erupted behind them. Naomi led them through a maze of maintenance corridors she'd memorized, finally emerging into the cool night air blocks away. Rodriguez, send everything we found to Martinez. All of it. She turned to Sarah. Can you get somewhere safe? Sarah nodded. My aunt's in Canada. They don't know about her. Go. Now. Naomi handed her a secure phone. I'll contact you when it's over. As Sarah disappeared into the night, Naomi's own phone buzzed. Another message from Wright. Did you really think I didn't know about the girl? Everything that happens now, it's on your head. You should have stayed down, stayed invisible, like poor Janet Brown. Attached was a video, the hospital parking garage, Maya getting into her car, and in the car next to her, a device with a blinking red light. The game wasn't just rigged, it was deadly, and Wright was still 2 moves ahead. The Greater Hope Baptist Church stood silently against the pre-dawn sky. Naomi watched from her concealed position as Michael Reeves and his team did their final walkthrough of the building's perimeter. In 4 hours, this historic black church would host a civil rights conference unless Wright's people got there first. They are secure, Rodriguez reported through her comm. Safe house in Detroit. Martinez's people swept her car. It was just a scare tactic, no actual explosive. Wright doesn't make empty threats, Naomi replied, adjusting her scope. He wanted her moved. Question is why? Through her earpiece, she heard Detective Martinez's voice. Because the hospital was never the real target. Look at this. Documents appeared on Naomi's phone, architectural plans, security rotations, delivery schedules. Not for the hospital, but for the federal building downtown, the one housing evidence from dozens of hate crime investigations. The church is a distraction, Naomi realized. They're going to hit the federal building during the evacuation. She watched Reeves check his phone, then gesture to his team. They moved with military precision, placing what looked like maintenance equipment at key points around the church. Initial bomb scans positive, Rodriguez confirmed. They're really going to do it? Naomi's finger tightened on her rifle's trigger. One shot could stop Reeves, disrupt the whole operation. But Naomi, Martinez's voice was urgent. We just identified the federal building's head of security. Ex-Delta Force, served with Wright. The whole system's compromised. The scope showed Reeves clearly. Center mass. An easy shot. If we move on the church, we lose our chance at the federal building, Rodriguez said. All that evidence, gone. They'll walk free. Naomi watched a young custodian unlock the church doors. Elderly deacons arriving early to prepare for the conference. Innocent people walking into a trap. Her earpiece crackled. A new voice. Right. Difficult choice, isn't it? He sounded amused. The immediate threat or the bigger picture? Save a few now or save many later? We studied your mission reports, you know. Kandahar, Belgrade. You always chose the mission over the moment. Through her scope, she saw more church members arriving. A gospel choir, carrying their robes. You're slipping, Commander, Naomi replied. The right I studied wouldn't waste assets on a diversion. A pause. She'd rattled him. The church isn't just a distraction, she continued. You're streaming it, aren't you? Broadcasting it to every hate group in the country, a signal to start their own attacks. Very good, he recovered quickly. Phase 1, a nationwide purge beginning right here, and you can only be in one place. Naomi's mind raced. The church, the federal building, both targets laden with innocents, both attacks designed to trigger more violence. 3 minutes till the first charges go live, Rodriguez warned. She made her decision. Martins, get your people to the federal building. Full tactical response. She was already moving, rifle collapsed, heading for the church's maintenance entrance. The evidence? Martinez started. It won't matter if we let them start a war, Naomi cut her off. Rodriguez called in everyone, every contact we've got. I want eyes on every church, synagogue and mosque in the state. That's about right. Naomi checked her gear one last time. He wants to see what I'll choose? Fine, let's give him a show. She moved through the church's basement, counting footsteps above. Reeves and 5 others planting charges. The choir was practicing their hymns, masking any sounds she made. Her phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. In Canada. Safe. Found more files on Michael's cloud drive. Sending now. The pieces finally clicked. Rodriguez Martinez, the federal building isn't their real target either. Check the files Sarah just sent. Cross-referential with police protection details. A moment of silence. Jesus, Martinez breathed. The safe house. They wanted Maya moved. They're tracking her. And every other protected witness in the state, Naomi confirmed. Get them moved, now. Above her, the choir sang Amazing Grace as she prepared to breach. The charges would go live in 90 seconds. No time to evacuate. No time for backup. Just her, 6 trained killers, and a church full of innocents. Right, she sub-vocalized into her comm. You studied the wrong mission reports. She thumbed her radio's detonator. Throughout the basement, the EMPs she'd planted during her recon went live, frying every electronic device in range, including the bomb's remote triggers. You should have read the ones about close quarters combat. The choir's voices soared as Naomi rose from the darkness, ready to demonstrate exactly what she'd learned about protecting the innocent and facing down evil. It was time to make Wright regret his choices. All of them. Amazing Grace ended on a high note, masking the sound of Naomi's first takedown. The youngest of Reeves' men dropped silently, a precise chokehold cutting off his air just long enough. One down. Police are 3 minutes out, Rodriguez updated through her comm. SWAT en route to all potential targets. The church's basement was a maze of narrow corridors and storage rooms, perfect for what she had planned. She activated her sound device, a modified version of their old battlefield tech, sending phantom footsteps echoing through the halls. Check the south corridor, Reeves commanded above. Teams of 2. Exactly as she'd hoped, divide and conquer. The next 2 went down in the boiler room, their own footsteps covering her approach. Their radios were dead from the EMP, but they still had hand signals, not that it helped them when the lights went out. In the darkness, Naomi was a ghost. Years of CQB training took over. Strike, move, vanish, no wasted motion, no hesitation. Something's wrong, she heard Reeves say. Check the basement. The choir started Battle Hymn of the Republic. Fitting. 2 more hostiles descended the stairs, weapons ready. They moved well. Wright had trained them thoroughly, but Naomi had learned from the best and then improved on those lessons. Flashbang, duck! Roll! The sounds above covered their startled shouts. By the time their vision cleared, they were zip-tied and unconscious. Only Reeves remained. Her phone vibrated. Martinez, safe houses compromised. Moving witnesses now. Wright's people are everywhere. Another message from Wright himself. Impressive, but futile. You're fighting a tide of history. Attached was a live stream link. Dozens of chat windows, hundreds of followers. The church attack was meant to be their signal, their inspiration. Got the stream location, Rodriguez reported. Bouncing through servers across the country, they're waiting for Reeves to trigger the main charges. Naomi checked her watch. The conference attendees would arrive in 30 minutes. The basement was clear, but the charges were still armed, waiting for manual detonation. Heavy footsteps above, Reeves was getting nervous. Status report. He barked into his dead radio, then realizing, EMPs, clever girl. His boots creaked on the stairs. In one hand, a detonator, in the other, a military-grade combat knife. He'd lost radio contact with his team and couldn't risk gunshots alerting the civilians above. Close quarters it would be. "I know you're down here," he called softly. "Wright said you were good, but are you ready to die for these people, these race traitors?" Naomi's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "How's Sarah, Michael?" He froze. "What?" "Your sister, the one you let them murder her girlfriend to control. Another sacrifice for the cause?" "You don't know anything," he snarled, but his voice shook slightly. "Rachel Martinez, age 23. Artist. She made Sarah happy, and you helped them kill her." The knife glinted as he spun, slashing at shadows. The weak have to be culled. Wright taught us that. Even family. Wrong lesson. She emerged from his blind spot. Years of training, meeting raw hatred. His knife strike was perfect. Exactly what Wright would have taught. But Naomi had learned from more than just Wright. The blade met empty air as she flowed around it. Her counter-strike was pure SEAL training. Fast, efficient, brutal. The knife clattered away. But Reeves was well trained. He recovered, detonator raised. For the cause. His thumb never reached the button. Above them, the choir reached a crescendo as Reeves hit the floor. This time, Naomi made sure he stayed down. "Basement clear," she reported, securing the detonator. "Bomb squad has 7 minutes to..." Movement at the top of the stairs. She spun, weapon raised. "Naomi Washington," an elderly deacon stood there, remarkably calm. "Detective Martinez said you'd be here. The choir will keep singing until the bomb squad finishes." Naomi blinked. "You knew?" He smiled sadly. "Child, we've been fighting these devils since before you were born. Now, help me get these evil men out of the Lord's house." Her phone buzzed one final time. Right again. "Round 1 to you. But ask yourself, why did I let you win?" Outside, sirens approached as squad cars converged on compromised safe houses across the city. The livestream chat erupted with coded messages, sleeper cells activating. The storm wasn't over. It was just beginning. And somewhere Wright was watching it all unfold exactly as he'd planned. Maya's safe house was burning. Naomi watched the security feed on her phone, her knuckles white around the steering wheel as she pushed the car to its limits. On screen, masked figures swarmed the building's perimeter while firefighters battled the blaze. "Talk to me, Rodriguez," she demanded, weaving through traffic. Martini's team got Maya out 10 minutes before the attack. They're moving to secondary location, Echo. "But Naomi," he hesitated, "we've got 6 other safe houses hit simultaneously. They're hunting all the witnesses." The car's GPS showed 15 minutes to Maya's location. "Too long." "Send me everything on the attack team," Naomi ordered, taking a hard right onto a side street. "I want to know how they found the safe house." "That's the thing," Rodriguez replied. "They didn't just find it. They knew exactly when to strike, exactly where the blind spots were. This was an inside job." Naomi's phone lit up with an incoming call. Unknown number. "Hello, Lieutenant Washington." Wright's voice was smooth, accomplished. "Beautiful evening for a drive." Through her earpiece, Rodriguez was already tracing the call. "I have to admit," Wright continued, "your sister's quite impressive. Did you know she stayed behind to help evacuate her patients when we hit the hospital? Such dedication, such predictability." Naomi's blood ran cold. The hospital, there was no attack. Then she saw it. 3 blocks ahead, smoke rising from Detroit Metropolitan Hospital's East Wing. "A diversion within a diversion," Wright said. "We knew they'd move her when we threatened the hospital, knew which safe houses they'd use, but we needed her in transit, needed you rushing to save her." "Signals bouncing all over the city," Rodriguez reported. "Can't get a lock." Naomi spotted a black SUV following her 3 cars back. Another pulled onto the street ahead. "Your weakness, Lieutenant, is that you think tactically, mission to mission. I think strategically. Every move you've made, every life you've saved, it's all been part of my plan." The SUVs were closing in. Professional drivers, coordinated movements. "Why, Maya?" Naomi demanded, looking for an escape route. "Why make this personal?" "Because that's who you are. The protector, the guardian. So focused on saving others that you never see the bigger picture." Wright's voice hardened. "We're not trying to kill your sister, Lieutenant. We're positioning you." A 3rd SUV appeared on her left. "Rodriguez!" Naomi barked. "Maya's location, now!" "Convoy's approaching checkpoint, Charlie. All secure." "Are you sure about that?" Wright asked. Naomi checked her mirrors. The SUVs had dropped back. Think, Lieutenant, if I can turn police, FBI, even your precious Detective Martinez, who's watching your sister right now. The realization hit like a physical blow. Rodriguez, Maya's protection detail, run them against Wright's military contacts. Seconds of tense silence. Oh God, Rodriguez breathed. Lead agent is Thomas Chen, ex-Delta Force. Served under Wright in 15. Naomi yanked the wheel, cutting across 3 lanes of traffic toward the nearest highway entrance. Now you understand, Wright said. Everything that's happened, your house, the church, the hospital, it was all to maneuver pieces into position. And now, send me Maya's convoy route, Naomi ordered Rodriguez, and get me everything you have on Chen. Already done. They're heading north on I-75, 20 minutes ahead of you. Wright's voice carried a smile. Better hurry, Lieutenant. Chen's orders are to wait until they reach the Canada border. Make it look like she was trying to flee. Tragic, really. Another black criminal killed resisting arrest. The call ended. Naomi's engine roared as she accelerated onto the highway. The SUVs had vanished. They'd never meant to catch her, only to delay her. Rodriguez, alert Canadian authorities. Get me satellite coverage of that convoy and find me a faster route. Working on it. But Naomi, there's something else. That hospital explosion. Preliminary reports show a military-grade thermite. Same stuff used in your house fire. The pieces clicked together. He's not just positioning me, she realized. He's recreating my missions. The hospital evac was Belgrade, the church was Kandahar. Which means he's pushing me towards something specific, something from my past. Naomi checked her weapons. But right now, that doesn't matter. Right now I've got 15 minutes to catch a convoy and save my sister from someone I trained with. She pushed the car faster, weaving through traffic with surgical precision. Head somewhere, Maya was being led into a trap by people she trusted. Behind her, Wright's larger plan was unfolding, and the clock was ticking on both. The convoy's red taillights pierced the darkness ahead, 3 black SUVs moving in tight formation. Through her scope, Naomi could see Maya in the middle vehicle, still trusting the men assigned to protect her. Chen rode shotgun in the lead SUV, his posture military, rigid. Got satellite confirmation, Rodriguez reported. Border crossing's been compromised. Wright's people are waiting. Naomi's modified Dodge Charger ate up the distance between them. The speedometer crept past 120. Maya's phone, she asked, weaving through sparse traffic. Still dark. They took it when they evacuated her. But I've got something else. Chen's service record. The parts Wright didn't scrub. Give me something I can use. Operation Blackfish, 2015. Chen lost his entire unit in an ambush. Official record says Taliban, but Wright was his commanding officer, Naomi finished. He owns Chen through guilt, through loyalty. The gap was closing. Half a mile now. Her phone buzzed. Wright again. Chen's a good soldier, follows orders, just like you used to. Naomi's mind raced through options. She couldn't take on 3 vehicles alone, couldn't risk Maya getting caught in a crossfire. Rodriguez, that border crossing, what do we have on the Canadian side? RCMP's been alerted, but Wright's influence reaches across the border. We can't trust official channels. 300 yards. Chen's voice crackled through a hijack radio frequency. Target vehicle approaching from rear. Proceed with exit strategy Alpha. The convoy accelerated, breaking formation. The SUV carrying Maya veered toward an exit ramp. They're splitting up, Rodriguez warned. No, Naomi corrected. They're funneling me. The exit led to an industrial park, empty warehouses, isolated roads, perfect for an ambush. Her phone buzzed again, a video message. Maya in the back seat, finally realizing something was wrong as her protectors drew weapons. Time to choose, Lieutenant. Wright's voice purred. Chase my men or save your sister. You can't do both. Naomi's hands tightened on the wheel. Rodriguez, remember that trick we used in Dubai? The transponder hack, that was experimental, barely worked. The convoy was 200 yards ahead now. Maya's SUV took another turn, heading deeper into the maze of warehouses. Transponder signals locked, Rodriguez reported. Ready on your mark. Naomi checked her gear one last time. Hit it. Suddenly, every traffic light in a 3-block radius turned red. Cars screeched to stops. The convoy's carefully planned route dissolved into chaos. Chin, we've got problems, one of his men reported over the radio. GPS is glitching. Navigation's down. In the confusion, Naomi made her move. Her charger sliced between two SUVs, cutting off Maya's vehicle. Chen's men opened fire, bullets sparking off reinforced panels. "May I get down?" Naomi shouted through her vehicle's external speakers. The SUV carrying her sister swerved, trying to shake her. The driver was good, Wright trained them all well, but Naomi had learned from the best, then become better. Her bumper clipped their rear quarter panel. Precision contact. The SUV fishtailed. "Target compromised," Chen barked. "Switch to Omega Protocol." Through the windows, Naomi saw one of the men raise a syringe toward Maya. Time slowed. The Dubai trick had worked once. Maybe. "Rodriguez, kill their engine. Now!" A burst of focused EMPs shot from modified panels in her car. The SUV's electronics fried instantly. As it lurched to a stop, Naomi was already moving. 3 men in the SUV, all armed, all trained, all expecting her to come through the doors. She went through the roof instead. The shaped charge blew a clean hole, and Naomi dropped into the cabin like an avenging angel. Close quarters combat in a confined space, exactly what she'd trained for. The first man never saw her coming. The second got off a wild shot that pinged off the reinforced glass. The third, the one with the syringe, hesitated for a crucial second. Maya, proving that Washington women were built different, chose that moment to slam her elbow into her captor's throat. 15 seconds after breaching, it was over. "Chen's vehicle is approaching," Rodriguez warned. 2 more SUVs from the east. Naomi grabbed Maya, already moving toward her own car. "You okay?" "It'd been better," Maya managed, her doctor's training showing as she moved efficiently despite the shock. They said Wright has plans for you, something about recreating your greatest failure." They reached the charger as headlights swept the area. "Get in," Naomi ordered. "Rodriguez, get us a clear route to the real safe house." Her phone buzzed one final time. Wright's message was simple. "Well played, Lieutenant, but tell me, who is watching your team while you're watching your sister?" Naomi's blood ran cold as Rodriguez's voice cut out, replaced by static. The game wasn't over. It was just changing venues. And somewhere in the city, Wright was moving more pieces into position, setting up a scenario she'd seen before. One that still haunted her dreams. The FBI's Detroit field office hummed with activity at midnight. Naomi sat across from Special Agent Diana Clark, watching the veteran agent review the evidence they'd gathered. Maya was 2 floors up in a secure room, this time with protection Naomi had personally vetted. "Your intel on the compromised agents is solid," Clark said, her dark fingers drumming on a thick file. "We've already taken 3 of our own into custody, but Wright's network, I've never seen anything like it." "That's because it's not just a network," Naomi replied, spreading photos across the desk. "It's a shadow government, police, military, federal agencies. He's been placing people for years." Clark nodded toward a secure laptop. Martinez sent over the files from Sarah Reeves. Money trails, shell companies, offshore accounts. Wright's been funded by some very powerful people. People who want a race war. "People who want chaos," Clark corrected. "Wright's just their match in the powder keg." Naomi's phone buzzed. "Rodriguez, operating from a new secure location. Got movement at Wright's known properties. They're burning documents, moving equipment." "He knows we're closing in," Naomi said, "but something's not right. Wright doesn't run." Clark pulled up surveillance footage from the safe house attacks. "Look at this. Multiple teams, perfect coordination, military precision, but..." "They're too perfect," Naomi finished. "Too visible. He wants us watching this, while something bigger moves in the shadows." A junior agent burst in. "Mom, we've got a situation. The Attorney General's office just issued orders to shut down our investigation. They're citing national security concerns." Clark's expression hardened. "On whose authority?" "Director Phillips himself." Naomi and Clark shared a look. Phillips, another ex-military man with connections to Wright. "How long?" Naomi asked. "They're sending in a team to secure our evidence. 1 hour." Clark stood, decision made. "Then we have 50 minutes to copy everything and get it somewhere safe. Rodriguez, you getting this?" "Already setting up secure servers," he confirmed through Naomi's earpiece. "But there's something else. I found a pattern in Wright's movements. Every major attack corresponds to a date from Naomi's service record." Naomi's blood ran cold. The church was Kandahar, the hospital was Belgrade, the safe houses... "Dubai," Clark finished, pulling up a classified file. "I had access to those mission reports. Wright's recreating your operations, but with reversed objectives. You saved that church in Kandahar. He tried to destroy one here. You evacuated that hospital in Belgrade. He attacked one here. That Dubai was different, Naomi said quietly. Dubai was... A massive explosion rocked the building. Emergency lights flashed. Multiple breach points. Security channels erupted with chatter. Armed intruders in FBI tactical gear. Clark was already moving. They're not waiting an hour. This is a smash and grab. No, Naomi realized, checking her weapon. This is Dubai all over again. Wright's people are already inside wearing our uniforms. Trust no one. Her phone lit up with Wright's message. Remember Dubai, Lieutenant? How it feels when you can't tell friend from foe, when every face could be the enemy? Gunfire erupted in the hallway. Get the evidence out, Naomi ordered Clark. I'll buy you time. There's a secure server room 2 floors down, Clark said, gathering hard drives. If we can upload everything. More explosions, more gunfire. Through the chaos, Naomi heard Wright's voice in her memory. Dubai broke you because you hesitated, because you couldn't take the shot when it mattered. Rodriguez, guide Clark to the server room. I'm going to find the real FBI team and coordinate defense. How will you know who's real? Naomi checked her tactical gear. Wright trained his people too well. They fight like soldiers. Real FBI agents fight like cops. She moved into the hallway, weapon ready. Somewhere in the building, Wright's people were searching for the evidence that could expose their entire network, but they had to do it fast before real FBI backup arrived. Time was on her side, but only if she could tell friend from foe. Only if she could do what she couldn't in Dubai. Only if she could take the shot when it mattered. This time there would be no hesitation. This time she knew exactly who the enemy was. Even if they were wearing friendly faces. Smoke filled the FBI building's corridors as Naomi moved like a shadow, identifying targets through the chaos. 3 of Wright's men down already, their tactics too rigid, too military. Real FBI agents adapted, these imposters just executed. Server room breach in progress, Rodriguez reported through her earpiece. Clark's pinned down, she needs backup now. A figure in tactical gear appeared through the smoke. Perfect stance, military precision. 2 shots, 1 target down. Clark, status? Naomi sub-vocalized, moving toward the server room. No response. Rodriguez, get me eyes in there. Working on it. Security cameras are... Wait! Something's wrong. The upload. It's not going to our secure servers. Naomi froze. Crack it. Signals being redirected. Someone changed the destination during the attack. Someone with high-level access. The pieces clicked together just as she reached the server room door. Through the window, she saw Clark working frantically at a terminal. Progretes, Naomi whispered. Pull Clark's military records. All of them, even the classified ones. A tense moment of silence. Oh God, Rodriguez breathed. She was there. Dubai. Different unit, different name, but she was there. Naomi's mind flashed back. The Dubai operation, the ambush that went wrong, the face she'd glimpsed leading the enemy team, a face she'd dismissed because it couldn't be one of their own. But it was. She kicked the door open, weapon raised. Step away from the terminal, Diana, or should I use your other name, the one you used in Dubai? Clark's hands stilled on the keyboard. Took you long enough, Lieutenant. I was starting to think I'd made it too obvious. The whole attack, it's theatre. You're destroying evidence and uploading what's left to Wright. Osi, Claw turned, her own weapon appearing smoothly. Wright works for us, not the other way around. Has been since Dubai. Did you really think a few racist gangs could build something this sophisticated on their own? More explosions rocked the building. Through her earpiece, Rodriguez reported real FBI response teams approaching. Way, Naomi demanded. You were one of the good ones, a role model. Because chaos serves power. Race wars, gang violence, domestic terrorism, it all justifies increased control. Wright's people provide the threat, and we provide the response. Clark's smile was cold. Dubai taught us both something, Lieutenant. You learned to hesitate. I learned to pick the winning side. Agent Clark, upload complete, a voice called from the hallway. One of Wright's men. Good. Clark kept her weapon steady. Plant the charges. Make it look like they destroyed the evidence before we could stop them. Naomi's mind raced. The real FBI was minutes away. If the building burned, if the evidence was lost... Dubai wasn't an ambush gone wrong, she realized. It was a recruitment test. To find operators willing to switch sides. And you failed, Clark confirmed. Too moral, too loyal, like Chen was before we gave him a better option, like your sister will be once we show her the truth about who really runs things. The mention of Maya crystallized everything. Rodriguez, Naomi subvocalized. Maya's protection detail. Already on it, moving her now. Clark must have seen something in Naomi's expression. Her eyes narrowed. Remember Dubai, Lieutenant. How many died because you hesitated? I remember everything, Naomi replied, including your tell. My what? That little head tilt before you take a shot. Some habits don't change. Clark's head tilted slightly. Naomi was already moving. 2 shots rang out. 1 shooter fell. And this time, it wasn't Naomi. Getting slow, Diana, she said, kicking Clark's weapon away as the other woman clutched her shoulder. Or maybe you just forgot who trained you before Wright did. Through her earpiece, Rodriguez reported success. Real FBI's entering the building, Maya secure, and I managed to download everything before Clark corrupted it. Naomi zip-tied Clark's hands, ignoring the other woman's cold laughter. You still don't see it, do you? Clark taunted. Wright's not the end game. We're everywhere, in every agency, every department. You can't stop. Save it for your testimony, Naomi cut her off. I'm sure the real FBI will be very interested in everything you have to say. Her phone buzzed. Wright's final message of the night. Well played, Lieutenant. But ask yourself, if Clark could hide in plain sight for so long, who else have you missed? As real FBI agents secured the scene, Naomi stared at the message. The conspiracy was bigger than Wright, bigger than Clark. And somewhere out there, more traitors were waiting. But now she knew what to look for, and she was done hesitating. Naomi stood in her old commander's living room, watching Captain Richard study the evidence spread across his coffee table. 3 days had passed since the FBI building attack, and Clark's betrayal had changed everything. They'll try to bury it, Richard said, his weathered face grim. They always do. That's what they want us to think, Naomi replied, pulling up surveillance footage on her laptop. Look at Clark's visitor logs for the past year. Every major operation, every failed raid, she met with someone from the Oversight Committee within 24 hours. Richards leaned forward. You think they're sloppy? I think they're arrogant. Naomi highlighted specific dates. They don't bother hiding because they think they've already won. But that arrogance leaves traces. Her phone buzzed. Rodriguez. You need to see this. Running facial recognition on Clark's visitors. Half of them use diplomatic credentials that don't exist. Send me everything. Richards watched her study the data. You're planning something stupid, aren't you? Not stupid. Necessary. Naomi pulled up a classified file. Remember that joint oversight hearing next week? The one investigating domestic terror networks? The one where every agency head will be present to discuss Wright's network? Richard's eyes narrowed. They'll have security locked down tight. That's what they want. All the legitimate authorities in one place, ready to bury everything. But what if... Naomi's fingers flew over the keyboard, pulling up building schematics. You're going to trap them, Richards realized. Use their own security protocols against them. Clark talked about chaos serving power, but sunshine serves justice. Naomi showed him the plan forming on her screen. We let them think they're in control. Let them gather all their conspirators in one place. Her phone buzzed again. Maya got those medical records you asked for. You were right about the patterns. Naomi smiled grimly. They've been using certain hospitals to eliminate witnesses, making deaths look natural. But Maya found their mistake. They used the same drug combinations every time. Evidence won't be enough, Richards warned. These people control the system. That's why we're not going to use the system. Naomi pulled up one last file. Remember Sarah Reeves? She's been collecting stories. Victims' families, whistleblowers, people who lost everything to this conspiracy. I've got news crews from 30 different countries ready to broadcast. No US agency can shut them all down. They'll have countermeasures. Count on it. Naomi checked her weapon. That's why I need your help. One last mission, Captain. But this time we're not fighting for the government. We're fighting against its corruption, Richards finished. He stood, decision made. What do you need? Your old contacts, your secure channels, and... She hesitated. That thing we discussed, about Dubai. Richard's expression darkened. You sure? They wanted me to remember Dubai. Fine, let's give them what they want. Her phone lit up. Right, heard you're planning something bold. But ask yourself, Who's really setting the trap? Naomi smiled. For once, Wright was asking the right question. The hearing was in 3 days. The trap was set. And this time, she wasn't just fighting corruption. She was burning it out at the room. The Capitol hearing room was a fortress, armed guards at every entrance, metal detectors, surveillance cameras, and layers of security designed to keep threats out. But Naomi Washington wasn't a threat trying to get in. She was the reckoning already, inside. Naomi adjusted the earpiece concealed beneath her neatly braided hair. From her seat in the public gallery, she had a clear view of the panel of government officials, law enforcement heads, and military officers convened under the banner of a national security hearing. In reality, it was a staged performance designed to dismiss and reframe the truth of Wright's network. A cover-up disguised as accountability. Too bad for them, Naomi had rewritten the script. "Rodriguez, talk to me," she murmured under her breath. "Security just locked down external communication lines," Rodriguez replied from his remote location. "But guess what? I got in before they did. The live feed's ready. The world is watching." Naomi's gaze settled on Senator Harrison, one of Wright's suspected benefactors, as he cleared his throat and began speaking. "This committee is committed to investigating all claims of extremism within our ranks," Harrison said smoothly. "But we must be cautious not to tarnish good men and women with baseless accusations." Naomi's fingers curled into fists. She forced herself to stay still, to wait for the right moment. Richard's voice crackled in her ear. "They'll try to shift blame onto rogue elements. Pretend Wright was acting alone. You need to expose their infrastructure before they control the narrative." "Understood," Naomi said, activating Phase 1. She tapped a button on her smartwatch. Hidden within the panel's own presentation system, a hacked video feed came to life, interrupting the senator mid-sentence. The room darkened. On-screen footage played, edited, undeniable. The FBI building attack. Clark's betrayal. Safe houses burned to the ground. The church plot. And finally, Wright himself, speaking freely in a secretly recorded meeting. "The public's too weak to act, but we're not. We'll burn the old world down and build something pure. This isn't just a movement, it's the future." Gasps rippled through the room. Senators turned pale. Camera flashes exploded as journalists scrambled to capture the moment. Naomi caught Harrison's expression, tight with barely concealed rage. "What is the meaning of this?" he barked. "Shut this down immediately." "Calm, bravot," Rodriguez said cheerfully in Naomi's ear. "This is streaming globally from 30 independent news outlets. You're famous now." The doors at the back of the chamber burst open. FBI agents flooded in, not the compromised ones, but the ones who'd been working behind the scenes, waiting for proof. Clark had talked. Others had flipped to save themselves. "Senator Harrison," Special Agent Morris announced, striding forward with a warrant in hand. "You are under arrest for conspiracy, aiding domestic terrorism, and obstruction of justice." Chaos erupted. Harrison stood, but before he could flee, Richard stepped into his path, a grim smile on his face. "Sit down, Senator, it's over." Naomi exhaled, scanning the room. One key figure was missing. "Right." Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You won this round, Lieutenant, but the war isn't over." She smiled coldly. "No, James, but I'm still coming for you." Naomi pocketed her phone and rose as agents secured the room. The conspiracy was collapsing. One by one, the powerful men who had hidden in the shadows were being dragged into the light. Justice was here. But her mission wasn't over yet. Because Wright was still out there. And she had one more battle left to fight. The sun was rising over Washington, D.C., but Naomi wasn't here to admire the view. She stood on the rooftop of an abandoned building across from a secure government complex. Inside, Wright was meeting with the last of his loyalists, those who hadn't yet been exposed. The hearing had rattled them. Now they were scrambling. "Good. Rodriguez, you in position?" Naomi asked. "Locked in. Facial recognition tagged 5 high-value targets. Guess who's at the top of the list?" Naomi didn't need to guess. "Right." Richard's voice joined the comms. "This is a black site. No official records, no outside monitoring. We take him here, there's no walking away." Naomi adjusted her gear, tightening the straps on her tactical vest. "Then we do this right." She checked her watch. 5 minutes until they moved. 5 minutes until she finished what Wright started. He had spent years planning a war. She was about to end it. That brings us to the end of this story. If you love to hear more stories like this, be sure to like this video and click that subscribe button for daily uploads. See you next time.